We mixed different parts from different organisations to try and come up with a new idea. Closing loops. Nature works in loops and systems the whole time. So what are the loops that we can start to create and think about around the idea that we've got? Engagement, niches. Nature tries to keep things simple. There's always a niche that can be occupied. It's always trying to break these things down and make them as simple as possible. The next one is engagement. How do we make sure that we create win-wins when we're actually making connections to others? And there's all sorts of ways of creating win-wins. The next one down, go long, is about trying to create solutions that we know will go a long time. What about succession? What happens when you go from a little plant like that to the next stage? Surely we should be thinking about those sort of things. The next one, authentication. This is about information. Nature lives on information and feedback loops all the time. It's constantly learning, constantly adapting, and responding to the information it gets in. We should do the same. It's pretty simple. Because the longer we leave things sometimes, we get these crazy oscillations happen. We've seen them in finance markets. Okay? And lastly, needs-based. Does it actually fulfill a need that we really want in society? 7 simple things that we see natural systems do all the time. So we have one big idea. We now have 7 ways to move that idea forward. Next slide. But before I do that, I'm going to give you 7 quick examples of what I mean. Mixing. This is an example of mixing that we've seen done. We've actually done some work with this guy. What he does is he takes waste products, blends them together and creates high-value protein formulas. Right? So he's already mixing some things together to create a new product. But he doesn't just mix that, he mixes markets. He makes this protein, he sells it to the developed world for a price, and then he sells the protein formula to the developing world at a much cheaper price, which is subsidized by the developed world. And this is the type of protein you can give to people that are malnourished. So now he's actually at the point of creating his factories in the developing world and creating whole industries around doing this kind of thing. It's a very successful business, and it's about not just mixing ingredients together to come up with something new, but actually mixing markets together. That's one way to think. Next one. Gretulate, loops. This is about seeing waste as a resource, or thinking about how natural systems work. What these guys did, they're very clever, is they grew mycelium like mushroom. And they grew it between 2 pieces of cardboard, let it dry out, and it became a wallboard. So rather than plaster walls, these are mycelium walls. They're inert. They don't absorb moisture once they've been dried out. And they use 5 times less energy than conventional walls. They're using waste as a resource and thinking about how they can do things differently. They're closing the loop in the system. Next one. Simplify. Credo Mobile. How do we make change happen that's really simple? Quite easy. You buy this cell phone. Every time you pick up and make a call, it sends a very small piece of the cost of making that call to a charity that you decide on. Every time you make a phone call, you're making a difference. Simple, simple idea. Okay? Next one. John Deere tractors. When you talk about sustainability in John Deere tractors, everybody thinks they make hybrid tractors or things like that. It's not what these guys did. They saw that climate change was going to have a profound impact in the Midwest of the US, and they said, what do? We help farmers farm. Why don't we help them farm wind? They can still run their livestock under these things. Let's just give them an alternative source of income and allow them to bridge that gap of change that they needed to deal with. So what do? They use their financial clout to put wind farms on, and then in 10 years' time, the ownership of that asset gets transferred to the farmer. Really good way to build some engagement over the long term. Next one. Patient opinion. This is about these guys wanting to increase the levels of service that they provide in the health system by constantly monitoring feedback. You could say that's authentication. It's true, but they're using that to design new services in the future so that they can build healthcare that's actually going to go a long time. Seems like a pretty simple idea, but they're using it as a way to think about strategies. And authenticate. Icebreaker. This is icebreaker. It's actually a woolen garment. It's a type of wool, merino. And what these guys have done is authenticate where the product comes from. It comes from wool, from the New Zealand high country. And what it has on the back of this garment is a thing called a barcode. No pun intended. And what you can do is you can type that code into the website online, and it tells you which farm the garment came from, just about down to which sheep it actually came from. So you can actually go and track what are the sustainability properties of the guy that's actually growing those sheep. What are they doing around their waterways? What are they doing in terms of reforestation? How are they looking after those animals? It allows you to figure out and authenticate the claims that they're trying to make around the products they've got. Those are 7 ideas. In the packs, there's 35. Back home, we've got hundreds. There's lots of ways that you can use these principles to generate ideas, but also to build better enterprise models. Oh, I missed one. Needs-based. Hours we drove. Be very quick about this one. In San Francisco, they put in some city ordinance that said that if you've got more than 20 people in your employment, you actually have to subsidise public transport. So what these guys did, quite cleverly, is they said, well, we have a bus service, let's just stick Wi-Fi, coffee machines and televisions in the buses, do a deal with the employer so that we'll pick up the staff and they can actually get on the bus and start working. And that's exactly what happened. So not only do they walk out the front door, get on the bus and go to work, they leave the office half an hour earlier and continue to work so that they get home and don't actually have to have that whole problem associated with getting in the car, having to get to work, getting home from work. It's a really good idea, really simple. The user need, who were they serving? They were serving 2 people. They were serving the employer, really good for them, but also the guy that actually had to do the work. Fulfilling the need. So 7 ideas, okay. So how do we use them? We want to use these 7 ideas to prototype new business models, new enterprise models. If we've got 6 good ideas at the table here, we could use these principles to help flesh out an enterprise model. As in, what is the offer? How do we make it work? What partners do we need to have? How are we going to engage with them? How are we going to make sure that we can have a number of different models that can actually go long over a long period of time? Are we fulfilling a user need? Fundamentally, can we actually make it go a long way? Because that's what we want to try and do. Next slide. So why this? Why is this important? It's because this is like a dartboard. It allows us to try and understand what is the outcome we get by actually designing a model that actually is based on systems. What sort of outcome do we want to get? And we have 3 types of outcomes. That's the reason it's coloured like this. Refined, new and shifted. Refined is about creating greater efficiencies at an individual kind of level. New is about new products and services that serve the marketplace or maybe prop up the way that we currently do things at the moment. The green stuff is when you're trying to create social and systemic change. Everybody likes the green stuff, right? Put your hand up if you like the green stuff. Right? Yeah, but it's hard. And we can't go from where we are now to that top corner in one step. We actually have to build plans, and that's the reason we try to do it and use it like this. Next slide. Because basically what it allows us to do is think about when we might want to do some of these things. It's about how do we tie all these pieces together to create strategies for change over time and build value in communities again. Next slide. So what is Next Place? Next Place is a platform for exploring social and sustainable transformation. It's a platform, it's a place for people to come together to generate ideas and to try and prototype new business models based on the way nature does things. What you did today is a start. You were trying to build solutions based on what we already had. Nature does that all the time. It's a good place to start. So that's what Next Place is. It's based on these 5 principles, very quickly. It's human-centered, it's about us. We have to design solutions for us. Secondly, it's about design thinking. It's about having a go, making mistakes, trying it out, prototyping, thinking, playing with the ideas. It's about systems thinking. It's about thinking optimistically about solutions, and it's about working collaboratively. We were working collaboratively here. We had people from all sorts of agencies and groups working together to try and create ideas. So what's this got to do with our project? We want to use Next Plays to engage lots of young change makers to collaborate together, to work with communities to try and generate lots of prototype solutions. Lots of prototype solutions. We want to blend social need with commercial acumen. We want to make those notions of how these enterprise models work for social causes. So that's what it's about. Next. There's three ways we're going to do it. One is we want to train a lot of people to do and use these tools. We want to get them to come together regularly in little small labs, little groups, to just throw ideas together. We want them to work in workshops with a range of different agencies to generate solutions. And we want to use this tool as a way to consult with some corporates to help them build CSR policies, corporate social responsibility policies, and all of those kind of things that actually deliver different sorts of results. The second thing is we want to share those stories. There's lots of good stories out there in terms of social innovation and new models. So let's share them. We want to connect up the ideas that are happening here with ideas that are happening at home in New Zealand to ideas that could be happening in the Netherlands. Why don't we share some of these solutions and see what we can make of them? And then in 18 months, we want to compile all of the ideas, all of those models together with all of the partners we've worked with and create like a user manual that we can all engage with to make change happen. See, find the solutions on page 47 that fit for me and see what we can do. That's what we're trying to do. So we've got a PDF document which we can send out to give you some more information on how this works and how we plan to train people. But if you think about Carlos's world and the fact that there's lots of things coming down the pipeline at him, we have to just think constantly about designing for the future, just not designing for today. So in Carlos's world, if he has to make a decision, sorry, it's really hard to see that, if he has to make one branching decision every year for 7 years, he ends up with about 128 different options in the future. We need to have a solution at every one of those points, one of those branches, so that it gives him a different way to think, a different option that he has. And then put these ideas together as strategies. See what I mean? We can start off with ideas that are quite simple that work at his level. We can then come up with ideas that work more at a community level and eventually create more systemic ideas that help move them forward. It's like roadmaps. We're just giving them basically and we need scale, because there's a lot of variability with what's coming at us, so we need a lot of ideas, right? You can't just have one silver bullet, we need lots of them. We always talk about needing 500 ideas. So here's the way to think about it. If we just train 10 fellows a month, and we hold one workshop and run one lab, and let's say if all the ideas delivered, and everybody generates one idea from those workshops, we prototype just 20% into enterprise models, we get 13 refined ideas, 4 new ideas, and 2 shifted ideas. And you extrapolate that out over 18 months, and it looks like this. Looks like nothing. Okay. Can we achieve 500 ideas in 18 months? Can we actually create 500 business models in 18 months that we think will make change happen? You bet. But we need everybody's help. That is everybody here and a whole lot of other people out there. So what do we want from you guys? 3 things. You've all had a little taste of it today. Typically we do what we did today and think about some more ways of generating solutions over a day, not in an hour. So we've done a lot of cramming. But we want 3 things. We want your endorsement. We want you guys to say, this is actually a really good thing to do. Or you might not think that, so don't stay for a while. Second thing, we want those of you that can, to actually advocate to make this happen, because we think it's really important. It's easy to come up with a good idea.